Some say that on Halloween, the veil between the world of the living and the world of the dead is at its thinnest. This allows the spirits of that dark unknown place to more freely walk among us, making Halloween the spookiest time of year. Whether that is true, or just a tradition, it's certain that the living are more focused on ghosts and the possibilities of paranormal throughout October. So here are 4 scary stories that happened on Halloween. The Haunted Mill. The following incident happened on Halloween night 2005. The only reason this is burned into my memory is because about 6 of us were witness to it, so it often comes up in conversation. There is a legend nearby, deep in the dark woods, of an old haunted mill. The story behind it is that a family of 3 used to live there, a father, mother and her 4-year-old son. The mother apparently went crazy and drowned her son in the pool next to the house. When the father come home from working at the mill, he found his son dead. He attacked the mother, and the fight ended in the attic, with the mother shooting the father in the head with a rifle. It is said that she hid his body beneath the floorboards, then hung herself in the attic. The legend says if you go up to the attic and call the woman degrading names, she will appear to you. So being the bored kids that we were, my 5 friends and I piled into my little car and drove to the haunted mill. I had my camera and was anxious to capture images of some ghosts. I am a skeptic, and I'm always finding excuses for the so-called orbs in photographs, always insisting that they are pieces of dusts, bugs, or light. The woods that the mill is settled in are always very dark, so the moonlight hardly penetrated the trees as we arrived at the old stone house. We all crept out the car and were startled to see 2 large black horses standing in front of the house. I quickly snapped a picture of them. Then we moved around, trying to find a way in. To our dismay, the only opening was a small window through the basement. We had to get down on our hands and knees to crawl through. As I bent down, I felt someone push me from behind. I screamed and looked around to see I was last in place, and I put my hand down to catch my balance, only to cry out again as my hand caught something thorny. I looked down and saw nothing unusual. Upon examining my hand, everything looked fine. It felt like I had barbs sticking out of my skin, yet I couldn't see anything. After we all squeezed in through the opening, we turned on our flashlights and began exploring the house. The walls, to our surprise, were all drywall, and we realised that the house wasn't as old as we thought, yet they were covered in graffiti, a lot of upside down crosses and 666 signs, which didn't do much calm to our nerves. I took pictures in every room. Finally we made it to the attic. We all huddled together in the centre and held hands. Nobody wanted to shout the curses, so me, being the skeptic, and the bravest, decided to take on the role. I shouted some choice words into the darkness around us, and we all held our breath, waiting. Nothing happened. We waited for about 15 minutes, with no apparition of the woman's ghost. With a mixture of relief and disappointment, we turned and headed down the stairs. Somehow I was in last place again, so I turned and snapped one more picture of the empty attic. As my flash bounced off the wall, I saw a lone female figure standing in the back corner. Terrified, I ran down the steps after my friends. No more incidents happened, although when we got outside, the horses were nowhere to be found. I took one more picture of the house, one of the old crumbling barn, one of the pond, and one of the eerie little shack we found in the backyard. Then we once again all piled into my car and left the premises. When we got back to my friend's house, we hooked up my camera to the TV so we could look through the pictures on a large screen. The results were pretty creepy. A picture of the horses captured them standing there, staring at us. Their eyes were red. Now I know that often happens to people's and animals' eyes in pictures, but it was still unsettling to look at. The rooms in the house all had millions of orbs in them. I brushed it off until we viewed one of the pictures of the barn, the pond and the little shack. None of them had any orbs. This seemed pretty weird. The attic photo showed nothing unusual, so nobody believed me when I said I saw something. But the last picture that someone had snapped of the side of the house was the creepiest. A few orbs appeared in the air, but one orb in particular was odd, and there was a distinct outline of a skull. I have the pictures to this day, and everyone I show agrees that they are very strange, and the skull picture, as we dubbed it, is the most chilling picture I ever took. The weird thing is, the skull is looming directly over the place where I hurt my hand on something, and in the following days an odd rash appeared over my fingers. It eventually went away, but the doctors had no idea what it was, and neither do I. I've never forgot this experience. The Tickling Ghost. Every Halloween around midnight, in our living room, I see a white figure of a little boy just staring at me. This first happened in 2005, the year my mum and I first moved into our apartment. I was 10 years old at the time and my mum was sleeping. Normally I can't sleep on Halloween because I get too scared. That year, I couldn't close my eyes without feeling someone in my room. When I first saw it, it was about 1 AM, and I was lying in my bed thinking about how Halloween had passed. I started to drift off. Then I felt as if someone was watching me, and then suddenly I felt something tickle my feet. So I opened my eyes, and that was when I saw him. I distinctly remember that he was standing near the wall. I closed my eyes thinking it was just my imagination, but when I opened them again, he was closer than before. I ran into my mum's room and told her what I saw. Of course she didn't believe me, so when I went back to my room and fell asleep, I dreamed of the boy in white all through the rest of the night. The thing about it is I see him every year. He gets clearer and clearer, and he gets bigger every year. It's almost as if he's growing up with me. I am now 13, and the boy looks 13 too. What could this possibly be? Whatever it is, it gives me nightmares. Bloody Mary. It happened in London on Halloween. I was making the rounds at my Halloween party, looking for my 7-year-old son, and I couldn't find him. I went up to his room and he wasn't there, but then I heard him laughing in the wardrobe. I opened the wardrobe and he was the only one in there, laughing. I just thought he was doing what normal kids do, playing, until later on. The party was all over and I was cleaning up, and again I couldn't find my son, so I went upstairs and checked the wardrobe. He was in there again, laughing. This time I asked him, "What are you doing in there?" He replied saying, "I'm playing with Mary." I thought this time another kid was in there playing with him, so I opened the other side of the wardrobe and nobody was there, so I thought he was playing with an imaginary friend. 2 hours later at 10 PM, I'd finished cleaning up and my son was already in bed. I was really tired, so I went to bed too. When I got to my room, I found a message written in my lipstick on my mirror saying, "You are wrong. I am real. I am Bloody Mary." As soon as I saw this, I rushed to my son's room to find him with bloody scratches all over his arms, legs and face. He shouted at me, "I hate you. This wouldn't have happened if you said she wasn't real." I've had many sleepless nights over this. Shadow Entity. It was Halloween, 2004. It all happened in my cousin's house in the Philippines. My cousin and I went to buy some music CDs and decided to grab a DVD movie so we could hang out at home enjoying the music. We decided to go straight back home to my cousin's house and listen to the CDs. We took the back entrance of their house leading to the second floor, where we saw her nanny and her niece. My cousin decided to stay in her room for a few minutes, and as for me, I started taking the stairs to the ground floor of the house. The ground floor part of my cousin's house has been abandoned for 3 months. My other 2 cousins had used 2 bedrooms down there, but now they had to vacate to the ground floor to reserve it for guests during special occasions. The house itself has 3 floors, yet there are only 5 people in the house. As I took the last step of the stairs, at the side of my eyes I saw a dark, tall shadow, about 6 foot tall, past the kitchen door by my left. I just ignored it, since I was more excited about listening to the CDs. Although, I had been seeing a lot of shadows in the past years, so I was kinda used to it. I took one of the CDs and started to play it on the stereo, with just minimal volume, just to relax me. As I was sitting on the couch, my cousin came into the living room and turned the stereo volume very loud. As we were enjoying the music, suddenly the volume dropped down to 0. I just stared at it, wondering what had happened. My cousin got mad at me because she thought I was the one who lowered the volume, using the remote control. I just looked at her and pointed to the remote control on the top of the stereo. Realising I wasn't responsible, my cousin suddenly ran upstairs, screaming. I was left alone trying to analyse what had just happened. A few seconds after that, I ran upstairs too, to check on my cousin. Surprisingly, the nanny, upon seeing me, told me she had heard strange sounds while we were down there. She explained that the sounds she heard upstairs were like humming frogs or crickets. After an hour, my cousin and I went downstairs again to watch a horror movie when something strange happened. While watching, we suddenly felt scared because we couldn't hear the sounds from the previous scenes of the movie, like a long delayed echo. It seemed like something was actually trying to mimic the movie, particularly the sounds. We made up our minds to stop watching the movie and just listen to the CDs again, this time a lot louder. We also switched off all the lights on the ground floor. This time, my cousin even shouted to the ghost. This is when I'm able to spend vacation with my cousins, so beat it. From then on, we enjoyed chatting to each other. During the height of our enjoyment, one of the figurines from the top of the stereo flew off and crashed on the floor. My cousin wasn't scared. In fact, she got mad because it was her mum's favourite figurine. At first, we thought it was the strong vibrations coming from the speakers that caused the figurine to fall, but there were many other items on top of the speakers. So why didn't they fall as well? We knew that we weren't welcome anymore. Something was trying to hinder us from staying in that particular part of the house. We found out it wasn't just us who had experienced strange things in the living room, but also my other cousins and most of the people who used to work there as nannies. These former nannies had left without a word, even without getting paid. Perhaps they were in fear of getting harmed or bothered by that same shadow entity. Thank you for watching this video. As Halloween is approaching, do you have any creepy stories? If so, please leave a comment below.